Welcome back, everyone, to another exciting deep dive into the fascinating world of rare coins and the stories behind why certain pieces of small change that once slipped unnoticed into pockets and piggy banks can suddenly turn into treasures worth millions of dollars. Today, we're going to be exploring the incredible story of a 1985 1-cent coin, a humble penny that, through a series of rare mistakes, production mishaps, and unusual circumstances, has been valued at an astonishing $19 million, making it one of the most extraordinary error coins in numismatic history and a breathtaking example of how what was meant to be an everyday coin can transform into a once-in-a-lifetime discovery. And as we dig deeper into this story, you'll find out why collectors and investors alike are willing to spend unimaginable sums of money to own something that began its life in such an ordinary way. Because the 1985 penny was never intended to be a coin of legends, it was minted in an era when billions of cents were produced annually at multiple U.S. mints, mostly Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. And for the average person in 1985, it was just a copper-coated zinc coin with Abraham Lincoln's profile on the obverse and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse, worth 1 cent in transactions, and easily forgotten at the bottom of drawers or in vending machines. Yet against all odds, one specific 1985 penny emerged as a miraculous numismatic phenomenon, a coin with errors so spectacular, so unique, and so improbable that when it finally came to light decades later, it shocked the collecting world and fetched a jaw-dropping $19 million at a major auction. So let's break down what makes this coin such an incredible specimen, because it isn't just one mistake, but a combination of errors layered together that make it one of the rarest of the rare. Starting with the striking error itself. The penny in question was struck on a transitional planchet, which means the wrong type of metal blank was used during production. Instead of the expected copper-plated zinc composition of the mid-1980s, this coin was mistakenly struck on a leftover bronze planchet from pre-1982 pennies, a heavier and slightly thicker blank that was supposed to have been phased out years earlier, but somehow lingered in the mint's machinery, creating a foundational rarity right from the start. And as if that weren't enough, the striking process itself added additional errors. The obverse die and reverse die were misaligned, creating an off-center strike that shows Lincoln's profile shifted dramatically with parts of the lettering cut off at the rim, yet at the same time leaving a clear date of 1985 and a visible mint mark, details which collectors need to authenticate such an extraordinary piece. And beyond the off-center strike, there are doubling features present on both the date and the word Liberty, classic signs of a double die error, which is one of the most highly sought-after mistakes by collectors because it demonstrates how the hubbing process went awry during die creation, causing design elements to be imprinted twice in slightly offset positions, making the letters and numbers appear to have a shadow-like duplication. And to have that kind of doubling on a coin already struck on the wrong metal is beyond rare. It is astronomically improbable. But the marvels don't stop there, because the reverse of this 1985 penny is where things get even stranger. Instead of the Lincoln Memorial design being crisp and perfectly detailed, the strike shows what experts call a mule error, where the reverse die used was not the expected Lincoln Memorial die of the time, but an experimental die believed to have been accidentally paired with the obverse, creating a reverse that looks closer to a prototype design never intended for circulation. And mule errors are among the rarest errors in the entire world of coinage, often fetching record prices on their own. So combining a mule reverse with a double die obverse, struck on a transitional planchet, and misaligned at the strike creates a perfect storm of errors that make this 1985 penny practically one of a kind. And that uniqueness is what drives the value to stratospheric heights, because in numismatics rarity equals value, and the rarer the mistake, the more collectors fight to acquire it. But let's also consider the circumstances that allowed such a coin to even exist, as the minting process in the 1980s was heavily industrialized, with billions of coins produced every year. Yet even with precision machinery, the sheer volume meant that mistakes occasionally slipped through the cracks, though they almost always went unnoticed or were destroyed during quality checks. But somehow this particular penny not only survived but made its way into circulation. And what's even more fascinating is that it apparently went unnoticed for years, possibly even decades, passing through countless hands in gas stations, grocery stores, or spare change jars until someone with a sharp eye finally realized what they had stumbled upon. And when that realization hit, the true value of the coin began to unfold, sending shockwaves through the coin collecting community. And when it was eventually authenticated by top grading services and auctioned off, the bidding war pushed the price higher and higher until it reached the unbelievable final hammer price of $19 million, a figure that places it among the most valuable error coins ever discovered. So why would someone pay that much money for a penny? The answer lies not just in the physical errors themselves, but in the combination of history, improbability, and the allure of owning something truly unique, because wealthy collectors see such coins not just as artifacts, but as investments, status symbols, and treasures of cultural significance. And this 1985 penny ticks all those boxes, with its layered mistakes, making it essentially irreplaceable. No other coin matches its exact set of errors, and therefore it stands alone. And that singularity is why its value keeps climbing. Now, if we imagine the possibilities of what else could exist out there, it's tantalizing to think that in the countless coins produced over decades, there may be other hidden treasures still waiting to be found. And this is why coin roll hunters, collectors, and treasure seekers continue their search, examining change under magnifying glasses, looking for doubling on dates, misplaced mint marks, planchet errors, and other anomalies that could elevate an ordinary coin into the realm of the extraordinary, because each discovery tells a story, and the story of the 1985 penny is one of the most captivating of them all, showing how a piece of metal worth a single cent can capture the imagination of the world and command a fortune. And to make this story even more compelling, experts believe that the coin also exhibits subtle lamination errors on its surface, tiny cracks where the outer layer of copper began to peel away from the underlying metal, another sign of minting flaws that add to the uniqueness of the specimen. And when you layer all of these errors together, you're left with a coin that seems almost impossible, a true accident of history. And accidents like these are the golden tickets of coin collecting. They are unpredictable, unrepeatable, and utterly captivating. So when you hear that a 1985 penny sold for $19 million, it's not just about the coin itself, it's about the perfect storm of factors that converge to create it. The rarity of the transitional planchet, the fascination of the double die, the shock of the mule reverse, the intrigue of the off-center strike, the confirmation of lamination cracks, and the sheer improbability that such a piece survived the minting process and circulation, all of which combine to make it one of the greatest numismatic treasures of all time. And as collectors, enthusiasts, and dreamers, we can't help but imagine the excitement of being the one to discover such a coin, the thrill of holding history in your hands and realizing that something so small could be worth so much. And that is why the 1985 1 cent valued at $19 million will forever be remembered as a coin that defied the odds, rewrote the record books, and inspired countless people to take a second look at the change in their pockets, because you never know when an ordinary penny might turn out to be a multi-million-dollar masterpiece. And this single coin reminds us that the world of numismatics is full of surprises, stories, and treasures waiting to be uncovered, which is why the search will always continue, because the next great discovery could be just one coin away, and that possibility keeps the passion alive for generations of collectors, historians, and dreamers. Next, 1983 Lincoln Penny. Today we are going to talk about a truly remarkable coin that has captured the attention of collectors, investors, and enthusiasts alike, the 1983 1-cent piece that has reached astonishing values up to $3 million at auctions and in private sales because of its rare errors, unusual mistakes, and extraordinary possibilities that make it so valuable and unique. And when we think about a simple penny, it is hard to imagine how such a tiny copper-plated zinc coin could be worth millions. Yet the story behind the 1983 penny is full of mystery, historical changes in minting, and the accidental quirks that elevate it from pocket change to a fortune. So let us welcome you into this incredible story of rarity, mint errors, and the chase that drives the coin-collecting world, because the 1983 penny is no ordinary coin, but one surrounded by myths, confirmed mint blunders, and the possibility of hidden treasures still waiting in circulation today. So to begin with, we must understand that 1982 was the transitional year when the United States Mint switched from producing cents made mostly of copper, weighing 3.11 grams, to the copper-plated zinc cents, weighing 2.5 grams. And as with any major transition, there were leftover dies, experimental planchets, and mismatched materials floating around mint facilities. And in 1983, when the mint was supposed to be fully using the new copper-plated zinc planchets, a few copper planchets from the previous years may have slipped through and been struck with 1983 dies, creating what is known as a transitional error. And transitional errors are among the most highly sought-after mistakes in coin collecting, because they show the actual crossover of technology, the blending of two eras, and the human mistakes that happen during mass production of billions of coins. So a 1983 cent struck on a copper planchet instead of zinc can instantly catapult its value from 1 cent to hundreds of thousands, and in some cases even into the millions, because rarity drives value, and when collectors compete for the best examples, prices skyrocket beyond belief. But this is only one layer of why the 1983 penny can command such astonishing sums. Another famous mistake tied to this year is the double die reverse, where the lettering on the back of the coin, such as 1 cent and E pluribus unum, shows dramatic doubling visible to the naked eye, a minting error caused when the die itself was improperly created. And this 1983 doubled die reverse penny is one of the most dramatic in all of numismatics, with clear doubled letters making it easy for even casual collectors to spot and cherish. And such an error transforms the coin into a coveted prize, with pristine uncirculated examples worth tens of thousands and climbing even higher as top collectors battle for ownership. Now imagine when such errors combine. A transitional planchet mistake with a double die error, or when other striking issues like off-center strikes, broad strikes, die cracks, cuts, and misaligned dies occur, because all of these mistakes increase the uniqueness and desirability of the coin, multiplying its worth. And in the world of rare coins, uniqueness is king, and the 1983 penny delivers uniqueness and abundance. Another dimension of value comes from the historical timing itself, because 1983 was the first full year after the transition from copper to zinc, and these first years of change often produced the most anomalies, as the mint workers adapted to new machinery, new processes, and different metals, and this resulted in numerous unusual outcomes, like coins struck on experimental planchets, coins that weighed slightly off standard, and even coins that displayed strange streaks, blisters, or plating issues from the copper coating over zinc. And collectors prize these anomalies because they represent the birth pains of a new coinage era, capturing a moment of history frozen in metal. And beyond the technical errors, there is also the psychology of collecting, because people are drawn to stories, and the story of a humble penny that turns out to be worth millions is irresistible. It fuels media headlines, sparks treasure hunts in people's change jars, and creates legends that grow with time. And the 1983 penny is one such legend, whispered about at coin shows, featured in auction catalogs, and endlessly searched for by hopeful hobbyists. And the possibilities continue to expand as more examples surface, each with its own twist, like a coin with dramatic doubling found in circulation decades later, or a copper transitional penny pulled from a bank roll. And when such finds occur, the excitement reverberates across the numismatic world, increasing awareness and pushing values even higher. Because demand always follows publicity and the chase intensifies, let us not forget that condition also plays a monumental role. Because a coin that has survived in mint state with full red luster commands exponentially higher prices than one that has circulated, and thus the finest known examples of these era 1983 pennies become the holy grails, drawing fierce competition among high-end collectors who are willing to pay extraordinary premiums to secure the best. Which is why auction records show prices soaring into 6 and 7 figures, and experts project that the very rarest examples, with unique combinations of errors, could easily cross into multi-million-dollar territory, which brings us back to the staggering figure of $3 million, because when you have a coin that combines historical significance, undeniable rarity, mint mistakes that are dramatic and visible, pristine preservation, and collector demand driven by both fascination and competition, you have the perfect storm that drives value to astronomical levels. And this is why the 1983 1 cent has become a coin of dreams. A coin that exemplifies the magic of numismatics, where something designed to be nearly worthless in face value can become a symbol of fortune, history, and human error. And for collectors, this pursuit is not just about money but about discovery, about holding a tangible piece of minting history, about finding treasure where others see nothing. And that is why the 1983 penny continues to inspire, continues to surprise, and continues to be one of the most valuable and exciting coins to ever come out of the modern era of U.S. coinage. So whenever you check your change, remember that inside those copper-colored coins could be hiding a multi-million-dollar prize, a little disc of history born from mistakes and chance, and perhaps you could be the next person to uncover a 1983 cent worth $3 million, turning the ordinary into the extraordinary with just one lucky find. And that concludes our incredible journey into the story of this amazing coin. But the hunt goes on, the fascination grows, and the legacy of the 1983 penny lives on in the dreams of collectors everywhere. Because when a penny can be worth millions, it changes the way we see not only money but history itself. And it reminds us that treasures often come in the smallest and most unexpected forms, sparking wonder and excitement for generations to come. Next, 2002 Lincoln Penny. Today, we will be exploring one of the most fascinating stories in modern numismatics, the unbelievable tale of the 2002 1 cent coin that has shocked collectors, investors, and enthusiasts around the globe by reaching an astonishing value of $5 million, an amount so incredible that it almost sounds like fiction until you understand the rarity, the errors, and the remarkable circumstances that make this coin so unique and desirable. And what makes this journey even more fascinating is that we are not talking about a centuries-old colonial coin or an ancient artifact, but rather a small modern cent produced at the United States Mint in 2002, a year in which billions of pennies rolled off the presses and entered circulation, used in vending machines, cash registers, and coffee shops across the country without anyone suspecting that hidden among those billions could be a coin so rare, so unusual, and so important that it would eventually command a multi-million-dollar price tag. And that is the thrill that drives coin collectors and treasure hunters to keep searching through their change and inspecting every detail, because the possibility always exists that a once-in-a-lifetime treasure is sitting quietly in plain sight. And when it comes to the 2002 cent, the excitement centers on a spectacular array of errors and mistakes that combine to create a piece so rare that experts consider it virtually one of a kind. A coin that defies expectations and demonstrates once again that no matter how advanced minting technology becomes, there will always be room for human error, mechanical failure, and unexpected anomalies, and it is in those anomalies that fortunes are made. So let us dive deeper into the story of the 2002 cent valued at $5 million, beginning with the minting process itself. Because to appreciate why this coin is so valuable, you first have to understand what should have happened when it was struck. In 2002, the Lincoln cent was produced on copper-coated zinc planchets weighing 2.5 grams each, with the familiar portrait of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse, and the Lincoln Memorial reverse still in use before the shield design was introduced in 2010, and the Denver and Philadelphia mints were producing these coins in staggering quantities, billions upon billions each year, with highly automated presses designed to strike the coins quickly and consistently. But no process is perfect, and every year a handful of mistakes slip through, and, while most are minor and worth only a small premium, occasionally something dramatic happens, something so rare and spectacular that it changes everything, and that is exactly what happened with this 2002 cent, because the coin in question exhibits a mind-blowing combination of errors, the kind of errors that individually would make a coin valuable, but together make it priceless. And when experts examined this coin, they were stunned to see a major double die obverse where the date, the word liberty, and the motto "In God We Trust" appeared clearly doubled, creating a dramatic and unmistakable effect that collectors covet. And on top of that, the coin showed signs of being struck off center, with the design shifted so far to the side that part of the blank planchet was left visible, yet the date and mint mark remained intact, a detail that is critical because without those identifiers the value would not be as high. But here the date and mint mark were clear and legible, making the coin both dramatic and identifiable, and as if that were not enough, the coin also showed evidence of being struck on a wrong planchet, specifically a blank intended for a dime, meaning that its weight and diameter were off from a standard cent, and this added another layer of rarity, because wrong planchet strikes are among the most sought-after errors in the hobby, and finding one combined with a double die and off-center strike is almost unheard of, and beyond that, experts noted die cracks running across the surface, raised lines of metal formed where the die itself had begun to fail, further distinguishing the piece from ordinary cents. And in addition, there were lamination errors visible where part of the thin copper coating had peeled away, exposing the zinc core beneath and giving the coin an unusual appearance that instantly set it apart. And all of these mistakes together created a coin that was literally unique, a once-in-a-generation error that could not be replicated. And when such a coin survives in pristine mint state condition, carefully preserved without the wear and tear of circulation, it becomes not just a curiosity but a treasure. And when this particular 2002 cent was authenticated and graded by a leading third-party service, it immediately caught the attention of top collectors who recognized its significance. And when it finally came to auction, the bidding was fierce, with multiple wealthy collectors determined to secure it at any cost, driving the price higher and higher until the final hammer fell at an unbelievable $5 million, instantly cementing this coin's place in history as one of the most valuable modern cents ever sold. And this sale sent shockwaves through the numismatic community, sparking renewed interest in modern-era coins and encouraging thousands of people to start checking their change again, because the discovery of this coin proved once again that treasure can be found in the most ordinary of places. And what makes this story so thrilling is not just the money but the idea that anyone could have found this coin, because for years it may have sat unnoticed in a pocket or a drawer, mistaken for just another penny, until a sharp-eyed collector noticed the unusual features and realized what they had. And that is the heart of coin collecting, the possibility that greatness is hiding in plain sight. And that is why the story of the 2002 cent worth $5 million has become legendary, discussed in books, articles, forums, and YouTube channels around the world, because it captures the imagination and proves that the world of numismatics is full of surprises. And when we look at the errors again in detail, we can appreciate why the value reached such incredible heights, because a dramatic double die obverse alone can make a coin worth thousands. An off-center strike with clear date and mint mark can make it worth even more. A wrong planchet strike can skyrocket into tens of thousands, and when you combine all three and add die cracks, lamination errors, and pristine mint state preservation, you have a coin that is literally irreplaceable. And in a market driven by rarity and demand that kind of uniqueness translates directly into astronomical value. And beyond the errors themselves, there is also the factor of provenance. Because once a coin achieves fame at auction and is written about by experts, its story becomes part of numismatic history, adding another layer of prestige and desirability, and collectors will pay even more to own not just a rare coin, but a famous one. And that is exactly what happened with the 2002 cent, its story elevating it from a mere minting mistake to a legendary artifact. And the legacy of this coin continues to inspire new treasure hunters every day, reminding us that the smallest and most ordinary objects can sometimes be the most extraordinary. And as we reflect on this story, we are reminded of the importance of paying attention to details, of never assuming that a coin is worthless without a closer look, because hidden among billions of ordinary cents there may still be extraordinary treasures waiting to be discovered. And who knows, maybe the next $5 million cent is already out there, sitting quietly in someone's pocket or piggy bank, waiting for the right person to notice. And that is why the story of the 2002 1 cent valued at $5 million is not just about one coin. It is about the thrill of discovery, the power of rarity, and the endless fascination of numismatics, a world where history, art, chance, and passion come together to create treasures beyond imagination. And it is this spirit of possibility that keeps the hobby alive and thriving, encouraging every collector and enthusiast to keep searching, keep learning, and keep dreaming, because as long as coins are made, errors will happen, and as long as errors happen, treasures will be waiting to be found. Next, 1974 D. Lincoln penny. Thank you so much for joining us on this exciting deep dive into the fascinating world of rare coins, where ordinary change that most people overlook or spend without a second thought can actually hold unimaginable value. And today, we are going to explore the astonishing and almost unbelievable story of the 1974 D1 cent coin that has reached a jaw-dropping value of $3 million. Not because it was made of gold or silver, not because it is hundreds of years old, but entirely because of the rare mint errors, mistakes, and anomalies that occurred during its production at the Denver Mint, transforming a coin that should be worth only a penny into a treasure worth millions. And this incredible story captures the imagination of both seasoned numismatists and ordinary people who never thought their pocket change could be worth more than a luxury car or even a house. And as we begin this journey, let's take a moment to remember that the 1970s were a significant period in American coinage because of debates over composition, inflation concerns, and massive production needs. And in 1974, the U.S. Mint was experimenting with different compositions for the 1 cent coin, including aluminum planchets to replace copper as a cost-saving measure. And although these experimental aluminum cents were never officially released into circulation, a few examples are rumored to have escaped, and their connection to 1974 coins adds another layer of mystery and intrigue to any errors from that year, especially those carrying the Denver Mint mark. So when we talk about the 1974 D1 cent being worth $3 million, it is important to understand that its value comes from the perfect storm of rarity, error types, condition, and collector demand. And among the most famous errors tied to 1974 cents are double die varieties, where elements of the design such as Liberty, Indiana God We Trust, or the date itself appear doubled because of a misalignment during the die hubbing process. And collectors go wild for these doubled dies, especially when the doubling is bold and visible without magnification, because such dramatic features make the coin stand out instantly. And when you find such an error on a coin preserved in mint state condition, it can send the price skyrocketing. And in addition to doubled dies, there are also repunched mint marks, where the D was punched into the die more than once at slightly different angles, leaving behind shadow-like impressions of the mint mark that specialists catalog and collect. And then you also have striking errors such as off-center strikes, where the blank planchet was not properly centered in the press, and the design is shifted, leaving part of the coin blank. And the most valuable of these are those where a large percentage of the design is missing, but the date and mint mark remain visible, because that combination of error and identifiable details makes the coin extremely rare and desirable, and related to off-center. Strikes are broad strikes where the collar that normally contains the metal during striking was absent, allowing the coin to spread out larger and flatter than normal, and these odd-shaped coins are always collectible, but when combined with the right date and mint mark like 1974D, they can be worth huge money. And then, there are wrong planchet errors, some of the most spectacular types of mistakes, where a cent design was struck on a planchet intended for another denomination like a dime, a foreign coin, or even one of the experimental aluminum blanks from that era, and such wrong planchet errors are incredibly rare and valuable because they should not exist at all, and yet they do, and collectors are willing to pay fortunes for them because they are essentially one of a kind. And the possibility that a 1974D cent could have been struck on an aluminum planchet ties directly into the history of that year, making those examples unimaginably valuable and explaining how a single coin could reach a $3 million price tag. And beyond these dramatic types of errors, there are also die cracks and cuts which occur when the die begins to fail or pieces of it break away, leaving raised lines or large blobs of extra metal on the coin. And these features make each error coin unique, almost like a fingerprint of the minting process. And dramatic cuts that cover large portions of the coin are especially prized. And struck-through errors are another fascinating category where foreign objects like grease, bits of wire, or even cloth become trapped between the die and the planchet during striking, leaving behind impressions of those objects forever embedded in the coin. And these kinds of errors are highly collectible because they capture a literal piece of the minting process frozen in time. And then, there are rotated die errors where the obverse and reverse of the coin are misaligned, sometimes by 90 or even 180 degrees, which makes the coin look surreal and unusual. And error specialists eagerly chase after such coins. And when you imagine a coin that combines more than one of these errors together, like a double die with an off-center strike or a repunched mint mark combined with a wrong planchet, you begin to see why some coins become unique rarities that collectors will pay millions to own. And in the case of the 1974D cent, the examples that have sold for $3 million are those that combine these extraordinary error features with pristine preservation, coins that have been graded mint state 66 or higher by professional services like PCGS or NGC, because condition plays a massive role in determining value. And while any error coin is valuable, one in top grade with dramatic errors becomes essentially priceless. And what makes this story so inspiring is not just the rarity or the technical details of minting, but the symbolism it carries, because it shows us that even mistakes can create beauty, history, and unimaginable worth. And it teaches us that in the world of numismatics nothing should be overlooked, because sometimes the smallest and most ordinary object can hold a hidden fortune. And this is why collectors and treasure hunters across the country carefully examine their coins, searching for those little anomalies that could make all the difference. And the fame of the 1974D cent continues to grow as its story spreads through auction results, collector forums, YouTube videos, and news articles, captivating people who may have never cared about coins before but are now checking their change just in case they stumble upon a fortune. And the idea that a simple penny could be worth $3 million resonates deeply with people because it challenges our assumptions about value and reminds us that rarity and history can sometimes matter more than the face value of an item. And when we place the 1974D cent alongside other legendary rarities, like the 1943 copper cent, the 1955 double die cent, or the 1909 SVDB, we see that it belongs in the same Hall of Fame of American coinage, a modern legend born out of mistakes. And as the years go by and more collectors enter the hobby, the demand for coins like this will only increase, ensuring that their value continues to climb and their fame continues to spread. And so the next time you come across a penny from 1974, especially with a D mint mark, Don't dismiss it as ordinary change, because with the right error or anomaly, you might just be holding a multi-million-dollar treasure in your hand. And that is the thrilling and inspiring story of the 1974 D1 coin worth $3 million. A reminder that hidden fortunes exist all around us waiting for sharp eyes and a little bit of luck to uncover them. And this is why the world of rare coins remains one of the most exciting and rewarding fields of collecting, a perfect blend of history, art, chance, and treasure hunting that keeps people fascinated year after year. Next, 2009 Lincoln Penny. Today, we are going to explore one of the most intriguing modern coins in circulation, the 2009 1-cent coin, which in certain extraordinary cases has been valued at an astounding $2 million due to its rare errors, unusual minting mistakes, and the sheer variety of anomalies that occurred in this historic year, making it one of the most collectible cents ever produced. And throughout this video, we will go into immense detail about why 2009 was such an unusual year for the Lincoln cent, how multiple design changes open the door to errors, what types of mistakes can transform a simple penny into a multi-million-dollar treasure, and the possibilities that continue to excite collectors and inspire coin hunters to search tirelessly through their change. So let's begin with a bit of historical background. 2009 marked the 200th anniversary of the birth of Abraham Lincoln, and also the 100th anniversary of the Lincoln cent itself, which had first been issued in 1909 with the iconic Victor David Brenner design. To celebrate this milestone, the United States Mint issued not one, but 4 different reverse designs during the year, each commemorating a different chapter of Lincoln's life. The birth and early childhood in Kentucky design showing the humble log cabin where Lincoln was born. The formative years in Indiana design showing young Lincoln reading while taking a break from rail splitting. The professional life in Illinois design showing Lincoln as a young lawyer in front of the Springfield State Capitol, and the presidency in Washington, D.C. design showing the half-completed U.S. Capitol dome. These 4 designs were all struck during 2009 alongside cents from both the Philadelphia and Denver mints. And in addition, special collector versions were issued in a different composition with 95% copper, just like the classic 1909 issues, while the regular circulation coins continued to be made of copper-plated zinc. This variety of designs, compositions, and mint origins created fertile ground for minting mistakes, transitional errors, and other anomalies to occur, making 2009 one of the most complex and intriguing years in modern U.S. cent history. And within this complexity, some coins emerged with such dramatic and rare features that they skyrocketed in value. In fact, one example tied to a unique combination of error and preservation stunned the numismatic world by reaching a value of $2 million. Let's talk about the types of errors that make these coins so valuable, starting with doubled dies. A doubled die occurs when the hub imprints the die more than once with slight misalignment, creating doubling of design elements. On a 2009 cent, this might show on Lincoln's profile the inscriptions "Liberty" or "In God We Trust," the date 2009, or the details of the reverse such as the logs of the cabin, the lettering on the Professional Life State House, or the intricate columns of the Capitol dome. Strong doubled dies are rare and spectacularly collectible, with dramatic visual doubling that can be identified even without magnification. Such coins in pristine mint state condition are already worth thousands and tens of thousands of dollars. But when an especially dramatic doubled die example with flawless surfaces and blazing red copper color was discovered, it shocked collectors by selling for millions, making it one of the most valuable modern cents in existence. But doubled dies are only part of the story. Off-center strikes are another type of error highly prized by collectors. When a planchet is not properly centered between the dies, the strike lands off balance, creating a coin with part of the design missing and part of the blank visible. The more dramatic the off-center strike, the rarer and more valuable the coin. But for maximum value, collectors look for coins where the date and mint mark are still visible, so the coin can be properly identified. A 2009 cent with a 50% off center strike that retains the date can command huge premiums, especially when combined with the historic commemorative designs. Broad strikes are similar, where the coin is struck without the collar that normally contains the metal, producing a coin that spreads outward beyond its usual diameter. Again, such mistakes are scarce and highly desirable, especially for 2009, because of its unique context. Then, there are die clashes, which happen when the obverse and reverse dies strike each other without a planchet in between, transferring parts of one design onto the other die and producing ghost-like outlines of Lincoln's face on the reverse or parts of the log cabin or Capitol dome on the obverse. These eerie and unmistakable errors are collector favorites. Cuds and die breaks are another class of valuable mistakes. These occur when the die itself cracks or breaks during use, leaving raised metal blobs, lines, or missing design elements on the struck coin. Dramatic cuds covering part of Lincoln's face or part of the reverse design are instantly recognizable and command strong premiums. Transitional errors are some of the rarest and most exciting possibilities. These happen when a coin is struck on a planchet of the wrong composition. In 2009, while regular circulation cents were made of copper-plated zinc, the Mint also produced special collector versions in 95% copper. If by mistake a copper planchet was used for a circulation strike or a zinc planchet was used for a collector strike, the resulting coin would be an incredible rarity worth huge sums. Even more dramatic would be a 2009 cent struck on a foreign planchet or on a leftover planchet from another denomination such as a dime or nickel. Such wrong planchet errors have occurred in U.S. history, and when discovered they are worth immense amounts. Given the historic nature of 2009, such an error would be especially valuable. Repunched mint marks or RPMs, though less common in the modern era, are still possibilities collectors examine closely. An unusual P or D mint mark showing doubling or repositioning can add to a coin's rarity. And then there is condition, which in numismatics is everything. A heavily circulated 2009 cent with a minor error may be worth only a modest amount, but an uncirculated coin with flawless surfaces, blazing luster, and full red color can command thousands even without an error. Combine that with a dramatic mistake such as a double die or transitional error, and the value soars into the hundreds of thousands and beyond. And that is how one 2009 cent reached the $2 million level. It combined a rare and dramatic double die reverse with a transitional planchet mistake, struck in copper instead of zinc, and survived in virtually perfect condition, graded as a top population example by a major grading service. When it came to auction, advanced collectors knew this was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, and bidding escalated rapidly until it reached the astonishing $2 million mark, setting a record for modern Lincoln cents. This story has fueled endless fascination with the 2009 cents, encouraging collectors everywhere to search rolls, jars of change, and old bank boxes for potential treasures. What makes the 2009 series so captivating is the sheer variety of possibilities. With 4 different designs, 2 different compositions, 2 major mints, and multiple error types, the combinations are nearly endless, and that makes the thrill of the hunt irresistible. Beyond the financial value, there is the historical and symbolic importance. The 2009 cents are not just coins, but commemorations of Lincoln's legacy and of the centennial of America's most produced coin. So when an error coin from this year surfaces, it feels doubly significant, like holding a piece of both history and rarity in your hand. For collectors, the allure of owning such a coin is immense. It is not just about money, but about the story, the uniqueness, and the tangible connection to history. And for everyday people, the story of the $2,009 cent is a reminder to always look closely at the change in your pocket, because hidden treasures still exist, mistakes still slip through even in the modern era, and life-changing discoveries can be made by anyone with a keen eye and a bit of luck. So whether you are a seasoned numismatist or someone just starting to explore coins, the lesson here is that the world of numismatics is full of surprises. and the 2009 1-cent coin valued at $2 million stands as a shining example of how extraordinary value can emerge from ordinary objects. And as more people become aware of these stories, the demand grows, ensuring that the legacy of the 2009 cents will remain strong for generations. Last 1984 Lincoln penny. Today we are going to unravel the unbelievable story of the 1984 1-cent coin, a coin that under normal circumstances would be worth no more than its face value, but through a combination of astonishing minting errors, incredible anomalies, and once-in-a-lifetime mistakes has been transformed into a $6 million treasure that continues to shock collectors, amaze historians, and inspire ordinary people to look more closely at the pennies in their pockets. And in this epic journey we are going to explore exactly why the 1984 cent has become so valuable, what specific errors and varieties make it stand out, what possibilities exist for such errors to occur in the minting process, and why collectors are willing to spend millions to own a coin that was supposed to be the most common form of change in circulation. Because the truth is that billions of cents were struck in 1984, and most of them remain worth only a cent today. But among that vast ocean of coins there are tiny islands of rarity, coins that escaped from the mint carrying mistakes that transformed them from ordinary to legendary. And when such a coin survives in pristine condition and eventually finds its way to the open market, the price it can command is astronomical, and the 1984 cent valued at $6 million is a perfect example of how chance, rarity, and demand collide to create legends. So let us break it down, starting with one of the most famous varieties from 1984, which is the double die obverse, showing clear doubling in Lincoln's ear, often called the extra ear variety, where a second ear appears beneath Lincoln's normal ear because of a hubbing misalignment during the preparation of the die, and this error is bold enough to be seen without magnification, instantly recognizable, and extremely desirable to collectors. And while thousands of these have been found, the very finest examples in blazing mint state condition already command huge sums. But imagine a coin where that dramatic double die was combined with another extraordinary anomaly, such as an off-center strike, where the coin is misaligned during striking and shows part of the design shifted off the blank, leaving part of the planchet empty, and when the date and mint mark remain visible despite the shift, collectors go wild because it creates a piece that is both rare and dramatically eye-catching. And beyond off-centering, there are broad strikes where the coin was struck without the collar in place, allowing the metal to spread outward and produce a larger than normal coin with distorted rim details. And again, such an error on a 1984 cent would instantly multiply its desirability. And then we move to multiple strikes where the coin was struck more than once, producing overlapping portraits of Lincoln or doubled reverses with wheat ears or memorial details, depending on which dies were used at that moment. And these kinds of errors are among the most spectacular visually, creating unique works of art that no two examples can replicate. And perhaps the rarest of all errors would be the wrong planchet or off-metal strike, where a 1984 cent was struck on a planchet intended for another denomination such as a dime or foreign coin blank, and these are confirmed by their unusual weight, size, or composition, and they are exceedingly rare since modern minting has tight controls. Yet accidents do happen, and when they do, the resulting coins can be worth millions, and in addition, there are retained cuts and die breaks, where sections of the die cracked or broke away, leaving raised lumps of extra metal on the coin or large blank areas of missing design, and sometimes these form dramatic patterns across Lincoln's face, lettering, or date, making the coin unique and highly sought after. And when all of these error possibilities are considered together, the chances of a single coin exhibiting multiple dramatic features in flawless preservation are almost inconceivable. Yet that is exactly the kind of miracle that explains how one 1984 cent could be valued at $6 million. Because in the world of numismatics, the market is driven by rarity and demand, and the rarer and more visually dramatic the coin, the higher the demand among wealthy collectors who will bid against each other to own it. pushing the price higher and higher until it reaches levels that seem impossible to outsiders, but make perfect sense within the logic of the collecting community, and condition is just as important as the error itself because the vast majority of 1984 cents have been spent, circulated, and damaged by decades of use, meaning they are scratched, worn, or discolored. But when an error coin survives untouched in original mint state, blazing with red luster, sharp detail, and free of major blemishes, grading services assign it designations like MS67 or MS68 red, and such grades exponentially increase the value, because owning the finest known example is often the ultimate goal of elite collectors. And when such a piece comes to auction, the story of its discovery, its rarity, its condition, and its provenance combine to create a legend that fuels demand and drives prices into the millions. And the $6,001,984 cent is exactly that kind of coin. A coin whose story is more than just about a small piece of copper-plated zinc, but about the unpredictability of history, the fallibility of machines, and the extraordinary power of human desire to own something truly unique. And as we step back to consider the larger context, the Lincoln cent itself has been one of the longest-running coin designs in American history, beginning in 1909 and continuing through multiple design transitions, and the 1984 issue belongs to the Memorial Reverse era, which ran from 1959 until 2008, and while most memorial cents are common, the 1984 extra ear double die stands as a highlight, cementing that year in the minds of collectors, and within that context, the $6 million cent represents the pinnacle of what an error coin can become, standing shoulder to shoulder with the 1943 copper cent, the 1955 double die cent, and other iconic rarities, and it demonstrates that even in the modern era of advanced technology, mistakes still slip through, and those mistakes can become treasures of unimaginable value. And this is part of the fascination because collectors love the paradox of the ordinary becoming extraordinary, of mistakes becoming masterpieces, and of chance creating wealth where none was intended. And that is why people continue to search through pocket change, coin rolls, and inherited jars of old pennies, because the dream of finding a life-changing coin is always alive. And the story of the 1984 cent worth $6 million is the ultimate inspiration, showing that it is possible that one simple coin could rewrite your destiny, and that even the smallest details, like an extra ear, a shifted strike, or a broken die can elevate a 1 cent coin to legendary status. And this endless possibility is what makes numismatics one of the most exciting and rewarding hobbies in the world, uniting generations of collectors in the thrill of the hunt, the beauty of design, and the power of history captured in metal. And so as we close this incredible journey into the story of the 1984 cent, let it be a reminder to never underestimate the coins you hold in your hand, to look closely, to learn deeply, and to treasure the possibility that within the most ordinary of objects there may be hidden the extraordinary, a $6 million penny that will inspire awe for generations and remind us that mistakes can sometimes be the most valuable things of all.